All right, well, Jim, somehow moving on from here, you know, we can't go to where I was going to go to next coming out of ovulation. NXT had a match, and I unfortunately did not get to see it because I did not set the DVR. It's my own fault. I'll find a way to see it. I understand you did.
I did.
Bron Breakker versus Ilja Dragunov.
And you would like it. You would want to see it. It wasn't like an epic half-hour, classic main event of a pay-per-view that is, can't miss. But we've been talking about following Bron Breakker's progress, and we saw the match he had with Seth Rollins. This one was actually better than the one with Seth, I thought, because it was more... Seth was trying to have a real good match and show the office what Bron could do, whereas this was Bron and Ilja sort of combining to show the best of what they each could do and were comfortable with. And it was only on camera, probably 10 minutes of it made the air. They had a break in the middle, but it wasn't as much the match as just, again, focusing on how these guys in their own way are very unique talents. And Bron Breakker could have been a star in any territory in any time period. And I can't see many others on the current rosters of either of the major companies. Now, I'm not saying there's none. There's Gunther. We've pointed out FTR. We pointed those out, but not many guys on the current rosters could have hung in Mid-South Wrestling or in the Mid-Atlantic territory or in Florida, in Georgia, at a high level. And this guy could. And he looks fucking fantastic. And his work has progressed. Everything wasn't perfect in this one. We'll talk about it in a second. And then Ilja, he's unique. He's never going to be a main event singles guy that's going to carry the company. Bron Breakker will. Unfortunately, Ilja was shortchanged a few chromosomes or genetic markups or makers or whatever. He's only...
I don't know if I would put it any of those ways.
Well, whatever. He's only 5'8" or 9" or whatever it looks like. He's not the biggest dog in the yard. He doesn't have Bron Breakker's physique.
You could say that.
Okay. But at the same time, he's unique and he's a fantastic babyface underdog. Because now that Bron Breakker's a heel, Ilja, with the way that he sells and the facial expressions he has and the body language, when he takes a bump and he looks like he's in pain and then he's pulling himself by the ropes and trying to drag himself to his feet. That kind of guy, as an upper level underdog babyface, or not to shoehorn him in it, but if he found the right tag team partner as a tag team guy, whatever, he's got all kinds of value to the company, and his matches are different. And if they hopefully bring him up to the main roster, it would be so much, not only so much better, but different for those programs than everybody. Yes, he's trained in NXT, but he was wrestling beforehand, and he's different anyway. You're not going to make this guy wrestle the same way and look the same way as everybody else. He's a little Tasmanian devil. And he's always in motion in some way, or in action, or in emotion, and showing it. And they had a good stiff back and forth match. Smash mouth offense. And Ilja would fight from underneath most of the time because Breakker's bigger, but at the same time, he'd get his flurries. And Ilja's got that style, the modern style, but he makes it work. Remember when we saw Ilja and Gunther? I think that's still my favorite modern match that I've seen from anybody. They traded German suplexes, and they, at the same time had a slugfest where Bron Breakker throws a heck of a punch, even better than his dad's, right, to the head, but he throws it with his body, and he looks like a man doing it. And the one real botch was Breakker went for the bulldog off the top rope to catch Ilja when he was standing with his back to the corner, and he got a little too much jump, and he came straight down and just kind of clotheslined Ilja in the back of the head and went straight over him, and Ilja couldn't take the bump quick enough. But it looked kind of like it might have knocked him out anyway, so he fell to the mat face first. But anyway, they got false finishes going where Ilja hit a coast-to-coast drop kick and then a big flying kick and got a 2 count and then came off the top rope, but Bron speared him and looked like it knocked a shit out of him, 2 count. And they're selling in between these things. And then Bron went for his finish, but Ilja turned it into a DDT and struggled, but hit a power bomb, got a 2 count. And the other big forearm, and got a 2 count. And then Bron hit they were knocking the shit out of each other. Bron hit a big clothesline. Ilja came back with the knee and then an elbow to the back of the head and got the 3 count. Ilja over Bron Breakker, which surprised the shit out of me. But I can't say he didn't deserve it because what a fight. And it didn't look like here's this big guy obviously stooging for this little guy's athletic, gymnastic bullshit like you see everywhere. It was a little plucky fucking guy that wasn't going to quit fighting a bigger guy that's jacked up and was hitting him with everything he had. And again, Ilja is unique. Sad to say, I'm sorry, he won't be the WWF Universal, Undisputed, Recognized World Champion probably more often than not, and Bron Breakker will, but both these guys are fucking great in their own way. So I enjoyed it.
So it's been a long time now. I shouldn't say a long time, but it's been a while since we first saw Bron Breakker as a babyface, Raw, on TV early.
Yeah.
Now he's a heel. You've seen him, not every week, at least not since the early weeks, but big matches. How do you think he's progressing? How much time in developmental is too much time in developmental? What should they do with him?
Well, he's progressing, and now I think he's trimmed down some. I think he looks a little smaller, but still in great shape than he was when he was a rookie. He's also, now that he's a heel, he had a little sit-down backstage pre-tape, and they may be writing this stuff for him, but it sounded pretty goddamn like something he would say. He made it natural, and he's got emotion. He's got facial expression, so that part has come along. He's still... maybe with the bulldog or, with a few other things, he still may be a little green, but his athletic ability's off the charts, and he has definitely progressed. I don't know. On this one, I will leave it to them because they're with the guy every day. And I don't think that there's a situation where it's like, well, we don't like this guy. We're not going to bring him up even though he's ready. They obviously see the potential and they need stars, and he's going to be one. And so it's not like they're going to leave him down there to languish. I assume he doesn't have an attitude problem. That was Tom Pritchard told me about Seth Rollins or Tyler Black at that point. They didn't like that he wouldn't stop slapping his leg on the super kick, and he was still doing Ring of Honor style stuff because he was better than everybody else in NXT at that point, or whether it was Florida at that time. He was, but they didn't care. And so that's what held him there, was because he had to finally break down and start doing shit their way. I don't see anything they'd want to change in Bron Breakker. So I don't think that they're going to leave him there any longer than he has to be, but they're still monitoring everything about him, and they don't want to rush it. When you've got, let's face it, there was no other way to put The Rock on television in 1996 but to put him on fucking TV. But now they have a developmental program. They have other, fucking avenues. So I don't think they should rush it. And I think as soon as they do bring him up, they got to have a plan. And since he's getting more comfortable as a heel, I think that would be great to start out and then see how the people take to him. Because remember, that same way his dad got over. He was a heel, but he was such an entertaining heel and it was so unique with his personality that people started taking to him. So we'll see what happens. But, they got to have a plan from the time he debuts for the following 18 to 24 months, because that's going to be, he's not just going to languish on the roster until somebody decides to do something with him and he starts getting over. they're either going to push him and he's going to get over, or they're going to waste it because he's a fucking star.
And in terms of Ilja, and unfortunately, you're probably right considering the way traditionally, other than some rare exceptions like Rey Mysterio or Daniel Bryan, the people get pushed as top stars in WWE. And those were incredible talents. Not that he isn't, but I don't know if that would happen. Where do you see his future? He has incredible facial reactions. Again, I didn't see this match. Physical matches that the audience can feel. Him against Gunther on the main roster would probably light up the audience the same way it did in NXT.
Oh my God, yeah.
And there's probably some other people, even some people size-wise, like him and Pete Dunne, him and Butch, would probably be okay because it's not a big size difference. What kind of future on the main roster do you see for someone like Dragunov?
It's right there. All you have to do is and we heard him talk on an NXT program, and he was practically crying, to the audience after his, big victory or whatever. The point is he can talk, he can communicate with that face. He's physically in the ring. He's a great underdog that the big guys can beat up, and he can fight back, and he can believably win because the guy takes a ridiculous ass kicking, and he's likable. That's the gimmick. Ilja Dragunov, and he's got the accent, and he talks to people, and he says, "I may not be big, but I will win." And and then he does more often than not, but not to the ridiculous point. And then you get an upper card babyface, not the top guy, but still a main event level type guy that people will feel sorry for when he loses, but they'll be behind him when he's still fighting. That's the gimmick.
Well, we shall see how WWE messes that up in the future. But